Okay, let's start from verse 8. Let's look at verse 8 and we read it together. Read with me. He said, remember, I pray the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. Verse 9. But if you return to me and keep my commandment and do them, through the sum of you were cast out of the furthermost part of the heaven, yet I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling place for my name. Verse 10. Now these are your servants and your people whom you have redeemed by your great power and your strong hand. Verse 11. Oh Lord, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to your servant and to the prayer of your servant who desire to fear your name. And let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's God-bearer. So you can see Nehemiah repeating exactly what was a curse that was already told Moses in the book of what? Leviticus in his book. Did you see that? And so before Nehemiah could come to confront the situation, he had to identify with the problem. Before you can, any of us, make a headway, we must identify with our problem, whether it's from our family. Some of us quarrel with everybody we meet. We start a business, it will fail, we blame the person. You go to somebody's house, you have a problem, you blame the person. You marry, you have a problem, you blame your husband. But have you sat down to check your life? Have you sat down to ask yourself a question? Is there something I'm doing that is responsible for my rejection? Is there something I'm doing that is responsible for my rise and fall? Is there something I'm doing that is responsible for the present predicament I'm passing through? Are there powers or forces that I'm contending with I don't see that is behind the present problem that I am having? And when you begin to ask those kind of questions and you begin to challenge your own status quo, it can open your own eyes so that you can change your own ways, so that your condition can change. Because until you get to that point where you begin to change your own ways, your condition will never change. And you find yourself going through the same cycle. You see people that you are better than going ahead of you. You see people that you are more hardworking, progressing more than you. You see people who don't even know God going ahead. Many of them are serving Satan, but remember their own punishment is waiting. So before you compare yourself with another, the first thing you have to do is to check your own life. Having done that, the next thing that he had to do, he had to prepare to meet with the king. He had to go and face his problem. You had to go and face his situation. That is point number 3. The third thing he did was to face his what? Situation. So he had to prepare to go and stand before the king. Was it easy? No, it was not. Why? Because you don't go to the king with a face that is not happy. Nehemiah chapter 2 from verse 1. Then he came before the king. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 1. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. Verse 2. And the Bible tells us, therefore the king said to me, why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This is nothing but sorrow of what? Heart. And I became dreadfully afraid. Why was he dreadfully afraid? He was because if you are serving the king and your face is sad, maybe you heard of people who are planning to kill the king and you did not tell the king. Or you have become against the king and your face is sad. And because of it, the king will not allow you to come into his presence with a sad face. No wonder some of us, we get a job, we get hired because we carry our problem to work. We carry our attitude as if the person that is trying to help you is the cause of your problem. Many of us don't know that our condition is getting worse because we are carrying the problem, the attitude, and the sorrow around. While those that are happy, doors are opening. And those of us that are closing our faces, closing our heart, the condition and the places God is sending us to get help, we go there by our attitude, we close our gate. Can I pray for somebody today in Jesus' name who has been carrying about a sad face? The king that you are supposed to stand before, who ought to have helped you. You didn't even understand that the sorrow of your heart, maybe the problem in your family. Yes, it is real. Some people come to work, but their mother have no food, or their father is sick on the hospital bed. But when they come to work, they carry the sorrow. And then the way they will talk to customers, the way they treat people, you are worsening the condition. Maybe you are the only one that is earning the little money coming that the family is using to pay the rent. Not until you know it, you will lose the job. Then everybody will sit at home. Have you solved the problem? No. Will that solve the problem? No. How will the problem be solved? The problem will be solved by tackling the problem. You must be open. You must be truthful. You must face your challenge. The Bible tells us what he did in verse 3. He came openly and he said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad? When the city, the place of my father's tomb, lies waste, and his gates are burnt with fire. Verse 4. Sometimes it's helpful to discuss your problem. Sometimes it's helpful. Rather than when you say it, and you are somebody who used to be happy and somebody that used to be helpful, the king will help. But some of us will be doing bad things, and at the same time, we are carrying the sad face, and at the same time, you want the person to be suffering for what he or she does not know. It can even be your wife, it can even be your husband, and you are carrying your attitude about. I'm telling you, many people are closing doors rather than opening it. But this is the pathway to recovery. Look at the attitude of Nehemiah. Nehemiah knew he was in problem. He knew he was in difficulty. I want you to watch the way Nehemiah prayed. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 4. Then the king said to me, what do you request? See how he answered him. He did not answer the king directly. What did he do? So I prayed to the God of heaven. Did you see that? Immediately the king asked him. The king said to me, what do you request? Did he answer the king? He didn't. What did he do? He prayed to the God of what? Heaven. As soon as he was there, like your boss is asking you, what should I do? What do you want? More of us, we start talking by ourselves. He never did that. What did he do? Right there, he was saying, God, please help me. He was not saying it, but he was saying it in his heart. He said, God, what do I say? Please help me. Whatever I say, let me not make a mistake. Let me not say what will make the king angry. I don't even know whether if I tell him what is going on, whether he'll be angry with me. I don't even know what. That's why the Bible says, when you are going to face that condition of persecution, do not worry about what to say. What do you have to do? Talk to God, and he will put the words into your mouth. And after that, God put the word into his mouth. In Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 5, God gave Nehemiah a word. Hear what Nehemiah said. And Nehemiah, I said to the king, this is now what Nehemiah said. He said, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may do what? Rebuild it. He made his request. And when he made his request to the king, verse 6, he now added, then the king said to me, the queen was also sitting there, how long will your journey be, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set a time for him. Did you see that? When you are serving and you're under a king, there's a time. He set a time, because the king will plan himself. You never ask yourself, who will do my work when I'm not there? You never ask yourself, what will happen? I mean, somebody starts work and the person has already earned a double salary, okay? A double salary in a month, in a season of her work. She now earns a double salary. So you can't say it's her salary. Somebody starts work who was just working as a help, and then get a job, you are doing your career, then get a job, you earn a double salary, and then you now just send the word like that and behave anyhow. Every day in the house of God, I see people who behave anyhow, who act anyhow. And tell me it's normal. It's not normal. Foundation. Ancestral cause. This is a condition that the devil lays on people so as to pull them down. Any of you today who have been rising, falling as a result of such attitude, you may begin to ask God. That pathway may be the pathway to your restoration, but your attitude. And this is common among those who pray and pray and pray. Who pray and do what? Pray and do what? Pray. Prayer without works is not taking you anywhere. Your pathway of recovery is tied to your mindset. I taught us about mindset last Tuesday, and I said, as a man thinketh, so is he. Renew your mind. Guide your alliance. Have a right attitude. Before you do something, ask yourself, if you do this to somebody else, will the person like it? If what you are doing is not the right thing, watch it. And again, I'll tell you, those who do that, they're mostly cupbearers. As soon as somebody finds out that she's popular or she's loved, or the person that you are working with has accepted you, you start acting. You start acting. Powers that will never let people rise and stay there. When the person was far, the person never misbehaved. But as soon as they find the opportunity that within the king palace as cupbearer, you are now relevant. You think that the way to celebrate your relevance is to start walking in rebellion and disobedience? Before you had access, you were respectful. Before you had access, you were willing to do anything, serve to come near. But as soon as you have access, familiarity comes. You start abuse of access. Before you know it, the gate closed. And you are wondering, this was the access to your recovery. What was your attitude? How did you approach the king? What was your access that was given to you managed? How did you manage your access? Some of us, it's not the devil or demon fighting us anymore. It is attitude towards life. A mindset. That is what is fighting us. Send the same person to work in the bank as a cleaner. The person will be there for 15 years with the same salary. He'll be happy because he will be working as a slave and never thinking he should be a free man. But Nehemiah knew he was a slave. Nehemiah knew that no matter how long he served this king, he was a cupbearer. He knew he needed his freedom. Nehemiah knew that this is not his land, he's a foreigner. Nehemiah knew that there's a better place to go. Nehemiah knew that the gates of Judah must be restored. Nehemiah understood that if he gets to Judah, his condition can be better. And guess what? When he eventually found his way to Judah, he became the first governor after restoration. Nehemiah became the governor. Some of us today, maybe the king that you are with today is the king that will train you. Is the person that will position you. Is the person that God have assigned that will give you opportunities, that open the door to your destiny where you will rule. But you just look at that, you just abuse it. And that door closed against you. May I pray for you today. Understand. If Nehemiah was not the cupbearer, he would never have had that influence. If Nehemiah was not the cupbearer, he would never have been relevant. If he was not the cupbearer, he would never have returned to Judah and have the sovereignty and the power to influence the land in such a way that he became their first governor. Some of us today, the pathway that would rise us is the pathway we are destroying. The very pathway that will discover your anointing and the grace that will bless you is the one that you are tearing. While we like to serve and remain slaves, when we're in a place we think is big, when we're in a place we think that we are constrained, we like to be slaves in a large house. But Nehemiah will not remain a slave in a large house. Nehemiah will rather, while he's in the large house, prepare to return back to where he belongs so that he can fulfill his destiny. I prophesy. And I declare to so many people who have remained slaves, servants, with a mindset of never rising, because they think that their pathway to rising is struggling in their place of enslavement and pulling it down. Rather than coming out of there and rising to set up your family, you are pulling yourself down. I declare that mindset is broken in the name of Jesus. That where you find yourself to serve, that you serve so faithfully that the gates will lift you into the place where you shall be made a governor. In the name of Jesus. Today, many people you see that have become senators were once a PA to a man who was a governor. Many of them today you see are their political sons. It's the same thing as those who know professors. They will help you to go up in your service till you have your PhD, even to be a professor. Many people refuse to be mentored. That's what I mean. Many people are not mentored. Many people in the course of mentoring disregard and disrespect mentorship. But mentorship is one of the gateways to greatness. Many who are never mentored may never smell greatness because there's a path to it. It gives you access to a lot of things. It gives access to opportunity. Let's look at that access. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 7. I want you to see the access that Nehemiah had. Then furthermore I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given to me for the governors of the region beyond the river, that they must permit me to pass through till I come to Judah. Did you see the access? Because he was a cupbearer to the king, he had access to other what? Governors. verse 8. There are people that you meet, there are people that you have access to because of the position. The money you may be paid may not be something that you desire, but the opportunities you have to serve may open doors that may never have been opened unto you. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he must give me. Did you see that? He must give me. Did you see must? He must what? Because when you serve the king and he gives order, it's a must. Some of us are having access to enter places, to have things we cannot have because of where we are. But we disregard those things. There are some benefits that are more than money. That he must give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel, which pertains to the temple, for the city wall, and for the house that I will occupy. And the king granted him according to the good hand of my God upon me. Why was the good hand of God upon Nehemiah? Nehemiah knew who his God was. Nehemiah knew who he was. And Nehemiah knew what he wanted. Can I pray for somebody here? You need the good hand of God to come upon you today. If the good hand of God is not upon you, you know what you need. You know how to present your need, and you know how to receive it. May God open your eyes today in Jesus' name. Gates have opened, they have closed. You don't know why. Verse 9. And I went to the governors in the region beyond the rivers and gave them the letters. Now the king has sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. Can you imagine how he returned? He returned with what? The king has sent to him captains of what? How many men make up a captain? And a horse. So when Nehemiah was going back to Judah, he didn't go back now as a fugitive. But when he arrived with the captains of the army and he arrived with the horsemen, I mean, Judah were like, who has arrived? But where he came from, he was a cupbearer. Are you following me? He was what? A cupbearer. So when you see that your own has arrived and arrived great, how do you celebrate? Or how do you receive? Or how do you appreciate? Or how do you recognize things that has happened? When it doesn't matter what people around you do. What is important is you yourself. How do you manage your success? How do you manage yourself? You are going to see how Nehemiah managed himself. Verse 10, Nehemiah managed himself very well. Now when Sanballat, the Horonites, Tobiah, the Ammonites, official head of it, they were deeply disturbed that a man had come to seek the well-being of the children of Israel. As soon as they saw Nehemiah, they knew that somebody has come back. You know, like you can go back to the village. Are you following me? When they see you, they see that you are fresh. They know that this one has come to this family. Maybe the first week you arrive, are you getting me? You started spending money. You don't know that some cousins, uncles, some people around are not happy. Are not what? Happy. When Saul returned, after he had met with who? Samuel. His uncle asked him, who else and what else happened? Did you see how Saul never became the king? The man knew something good was coming. Before you know, Saul moved and sacrificed. Could not wait for who? Could not wait for Samuel to come and anoint him. And that's why he lived tormented over 38 years as a king. He amounted to nothing. Amounted to nothing. You must know how to protect yourself. You must know how to protect your anointing. You must know how to preserve yourself. Because the wicked are watching. They know when good is coming. They don't want good for you. They don't want you to rise. There are many people who will come, hey, let's see what he did, verse 11. Wisdom is profitable. Those who have it, they survive. So I came to Jerusalem and was there for what? 3 days. When he arrived at Jerusalem, meanwhile the wicked ones have known that he has arrived. Then what did he do? Verse 12. Then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me, and I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do in Jerusalem, nor was there any animal with me except the one on which I rode. Did you see what he did? When he arrived at night, he rose up. At that night, he did not let anybody. See, I arose in the night, I and a few men with me. The men that were with him were not his village people. The few men with him were those who traveled with him, who knew where he was going. But when he arrived in his village, he did not allow the ancestral uncles and aunties and cousins into what he was doing. What God had put in his heart to do, he did not let anybody know. 3 days he was keeping his dream. Some of us, God is about to bless you. You open your mouth. You just start talking. Not even an animal. Not even what? An animal, except the one which I was what? Because you don't know. Sometimes we hear that even lizards, they have ears. Someone told me one day, I'm an agama lizard. Talking about monitoring spirit. God dealt with it some days, and we are still on that, but I don't want to be distracted. Verse 13. And I went out by night through the valley gate to the serpent well and the refuse gate, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and its gates, which were burnt with what? Fire. When you are about to build their house in the village, go and broadcast it. Verse 14. Go and tell them. Carry your pregnancy. Be showing up yourself on social media. Let the whole world be seeing you. You know that's what pregnant women do. Shameless. Then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, and there was no room for the animal under me to pass. The animal could not continue. Because when you are coming to the king's pool and the fountain gate, that place is the inner chambers of the king. Now, this is where he was going to take up as the next governor. You know what he did? He made sure the animal did not go with him, only him. He now surveyed it and said to himself, I'm going to become the governor of this place. I'm going to restore it. That was where his ambition started. You see, this fountain is going to work. You see this king's pool, I will restore it. I will be coming back here. I'm going to return. He was not thinking of where he was a cupbearer. He knows he has his time with the governor, with the king, but he already had an ambition. When do you develop? When do you develop? What time do you have to meditate? What time do you have planned for your life? What is your plans for your destiny? Verse 15. How do you manage your life? How do you manage your destiny? So I went up again in the night by the valley and viewed the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate. And so I returned. By where? By the valley gate. Verse 16. And the official did not know where I had gone or what I had done. I had not yet told the Jews. I had not told the priests. I had not told the nobles. I had not told the officials. All the others who did the work. Nobody, not even the priest. Verse 17. He settled it. He was sure what he was planning. His mind was made up. Then I said to them later on, I see the distress that we are in. He had prayed, he had prepared himself, packaged his case, packaged his issue, and then began to say to them, how Jerusalem lies waste and its gates are burnt with fire. Come, let us build the walls of Jerusalem that we may no longer be what? A reproach. Because if you ask them to check for him, they will come back and tell him all is well. He did not do that. He did not do that. He went by himself, did his own inspection, had an unbiased opinion. If you ask some other people, they'll tell him that this family is quarreling with this family, don't enter here. He did not do that. He went by himself, unbiased. Sometimes you are given an assignment. Rather than do it yourself, come out with your own, you just get one or two people. That's why some people are suffering from demotion in their office. You ask somebody to do something that is very important. Instead of you to handle it, you hand it over to somebody that will misuse it. After they are done with it, messed it up, then you yourself will now come, start looking for solution. Who is pleasing who? Up to what extent is who is impressing who? Can I tell you something? It's a foolhardy. When somebody has entrusted you with something or something is important to you, handle it yourself. You have to have your own first-hand information. Even if you delegate, look at the answers. Even if somebody is doing it for you, check and cross-check. before you come out and declare what it is, so that men can trust you as somebody that is what? Reliable. By the time he gave them a report of what was on ground, I'm sure they were surprised. How did he know this? All Nehemiah told him was that the place was in what? In ruins. But Nehemiah did not give him the true picture of all the gates. He went on his own inspection, came back with his own what? Assessment. They could not deny it they were porous. They could not deny it that they needed help. You see, when next you want to present your manifesto, study it well. When you present a solid proposal, you will get your answer. Carelessness will never bring you to restoration. Haphazard lifestyle can never open doors for you. When you are ready to move to your next level, people, commit yourself to excellence. Spirit of excellence, consistency, privacy can lift a man to a level he or she have never planned. And strangers, people who don't know you, can do what? They can gain confidence of you. How did Nehemiah gain this skill? He gained it as a king, what? Cupbearer. It was through mentorship in the palace. It was through training. Training can give you a mindset that is superior to those that you are going to lead. A person who is not mentored, who have not allowed somebody to help you to train and to mature, may be careless. I'm a self-made man. Nobody can tell me what to do. To what and to how extent can that be? I really don't know. I've gone through history. A man that went through greatness without some level of mentorship. You must humble yourself. Whether it is trading you want to do, there's a system of apprenticeship. Whether it is sewing you want to do. If you go out there, mechanics, nobody is learning. Carpentry, nobody is learning. Nobody wants to be what? Everybody wants to do Naira bet. Everybody wants to make it overnight millionaire. Let's look at what will happen in 10 years' time. Men who have lost time, they did not go to school, they ate their school fees. Men who have lost time, they have not given themselves out to learn any skill. Let us see how far they can go. Let us see where they will end up. Because all the stolen money will catch up with those that stole the money. Don't worry, you soon learn that this is internet. When these things come crashing in, then you're going to find those people who are busy simply learning carpentry. One day they will have their own workshop. Their millions will come. I don't know who taught this generation that money falls from heaven. No problem. The business is in the air. That's why sometimes it just disappears. Nobody will tell you the way and the time the business will disappear. That's why they teach you multiple streams of income. So while you are doing that one in the air, make sure that you are skilled. You have hand or brain that is developed. Because your hand will never disappear and your brain will never what? Disappear. So that one that can bring in money, which is more like gambling sometimes, the kind of, you don't know the people, you put in million, first time, second time, third time, they'll eat the whole thing. So while you are into that one, because I know I'm not here to tell you what to do, because some of you are deep into those things, make sure that your hand, because this hand, God put it there to always feed you. Make sure that your brain, that you develop it, so that when any of those things crash, you can always feed yourself through the one that is in under your what? Control. Okay. Let me just be sure I am carrying you people along. Am I? Am I carrying people along? Because you know, we are a generation that have shifted. Things are shifting very fast on us. And we want to be sure we are still in touch with reality. Praise God. I say praise God. Therefore, after he spoke to them, he told them how their land was. Verse 18. I told them of the hand of God which has been good upon me, and also of the king's word that he has spoken to me. So they said, let us rise up and build. Then they set their hands to do his work. Why could he convince them? He convinced them because they saw what? Evidence. Some of us want to change our generation. Some of us want to change people. All you have done is just to go and read somebody's book on 50 principles of making money. You have not even tried it to make 1 naira yourself. You don't have any impact, no influence, nothing at all. All you know is that you are a pastor, you are this, you are that. You have all those things you've read. You have not even changed your own life. How do you change people's life when your own life is not changed? How? How do you transfer what you've not used? How? This young man has served. He had been mentored. He had grown up in the palace to the point that the king could trust him. The king has sent captains, sent horses. He had the backing from where he was coming from. He was not just telling them out. They looked at him. They know he had a letter from the king. They saw him. They saw he was qualified. They were sure they could trust their life to him. They were confident that the person they were going to follow has a backup. And that's why ministry will start today. After the noise, tomorrow it will do what? It will scatter. Because there's no what? Backup. I tell you sincerely. So many things you see that is moving fast will still crash. Because there's no what? Backup. In life, it's important to have a backup. A recovery process needs a backup. That's why our computer system has a backup system. Even in the back of the system, there's still another backup of data. Why? Because nature knows that something can do or crash. So the important or how important what you are doing is determine how many backup systems that you have. That if one crash, you can have another backup. If another one crash, you can even pull it out, put it in a safe drive. You can also have it in your system. You can have it in iCloud so that if one thing crashes, you can still have what? A backup. Me, myself, I. Where is your backup? What is the system or the assistance or the place you have invested in that will back you up? That is the question for you today. As you live your life, remember that no man is an island. No man can sustain or survive by himself. There is a system. Even if Nehemiah has to go and build, he cannot build by himself. There are those that will be there to back him up. The community has to allow him to do that. Is somebody following me? Now, Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 19 tells us, from that minute the work starts. But then Sanballat and Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, the official, and Gesem the Arab heard of it. They laughed at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that we are doing? Will you rebel against the king? You see, even when you intend to work, even when you intend to grow, even when you intend to move, remember, the enemies that will mock are still there. The enemies that will reproach are still what? But don't look at them. Don't do what? Don't concentrate at them. They were mocking. What is this thing they are doing? Will you rebel against what? The king. But they didn't know that this one he's coming from somewhere. He's coming from somewhere. They can mock at you if you are not coming from somewhere. But if you have your spiritual authority and you have your cover, I can tell you, there's a system God has put in place to keep a man that even when there are powers to pull you down, they will not succeed in Jesus' name. And Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 20 tells us how he continued to advance. So I answered them and said to them, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore, we his servants will arise and build, but you have no heritage. Somebody say no heritage. You have no right. Somebody say no right. Somebody say you have no memorial. Say no memorial in Jerusalem. Hear me. When you are ready to advance a destiny, when you are ready to advance your calling, when you are ready to enter into what God has called you to do, or who God has called you to be, and you begin to face resistance, and you see resistance that are bent to stop you. You know one thing? If they see that you did not fail, the next thing is they want to have a heritage with you. The next thing is that they want to have a right in what you are doing. The next thing is they will seek a memorial. But remember what Nehemiah said. On the pathway of who? On restoration. Those who don't want to see you rise. Those who don't want to see you succeed. Those who don't want to see this hand strong to finish the work. Remember, they should have no heritage. They should have no right. They should have no memorial in Jerusalem. Because when you give them that heritage, when you give them the right and the memorial, they will still try to pull you down. Is somebody listening to what I'm saying? Is somebody listening to what I'm saying? Pathway to recovery. Pathway to revival. Mark the enemies of your vision. Mark those who contend with what God has asked you to do. Mark those who want to bring reproach. Those who are determined to put your destiny to shame. Mark them. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 21. If you don't know who they are, you bring them into your heritage. Mark those you give position. Mark those that you make leader. That's what it means. Mark those that you entrust what is sensitive to you.